Hello, I'm Ethan Frank. I'm a criminal justice and religion major here at North Carolina Wesleyan University, and I am presenting on suicide by cop and how that diffuses mental illness into the surrounding society. So what is suicide by cop? Vivian B. Lord defines it as police shootings that could be considered suicides due to the actions or verbalizations of the subjects demonstrating suicidal motivation. So what that basically means is anyone who was shot by a police officer, and then later it's found that they had suicidal motivation. Now, that description is accurate, but the evident problem is that there's a lot of uncertainty right when the action happens, like right when the shooting happens, and that uncertainty leaves gaps, which can be really bad for police officers and their mental health because they don't know if the shooting was justified. Like, they don't realize sometimes that they've been played, and the law enforcement officer, because of that, is held responsible by the law and society until evidence comes out that shows that it was a suicide. And this can have varying political, societal, and personal consequences, which we will discuss later. So the incident in San Antonio that motivated this topic: on Friday, November 14th, 2025, a suspect that was wanted on an arrest warrant for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon called 911 to report a suicide in progress. He was reporting his own suicide. And when officers arrived, they found the suspect barricaded in his home, and they took him into custody without any issues. But there were reports beforehand and afterwards that the suspect was attempting or wanting to attempt suicide by cop. It remains unknown if he intended to go through with his plan to commit suicide by cop, or if he just mentioned it to some people he knew. But the fact that he called 911 to inform law enforcement implies that he was going to go through with it. So what are some of the consequences of suicide by cop as a whole? Some of the political consequences are that in extreme cases, the controversial police shootings can lead to politicians advocating for defunding the police, and that is obviously bad because then there's not as many officers to respond to crime. Some of the societal issues is that growing distrust in law enforcement can lead to society advocating for these same policies that are bad for the same reasons, and it also makes citizens less likely to report crime if they don't trust law enforcement. Now, there are personal consequences all around. The family of the victim is obviously going to be devastated that someone they knew was killed by a police officer, and that's only going to be worse if they found out it was a suicide. And then the involved law enforcement officers obviously suffer because they had to kill someone. And oftentimes officers will experience flashbacks and regret and depression after they were forced to take someone's life. Sometimes the officers will also feel like they've been used as just a tool for somebody else to achieve their goal of suicide. And this is getting more prevalent. A study in 2006 examined 707 cases from over 90 different police departments in America, and this was between 1998 and 2006. Cases were excluded if the officers did not use their weapons, or if they only fired at animals and not individuals, or if some officers discharged their weapon on accident. But a total of 256 of the 707 cases were found to be suicide by cop, and that's 36%. So more than 3 out of 10 times a police officer shoots someone, it can be suicide by cop. Now, I present to you Suicide by Cop Told by Frogs, a public service announcement.